Hare Radhe Radhe Sham Sham Hare Krishna. Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pichanini. Here we say Sasanyavadi Paschat at this time. So, what devotees, the occupation of devotees is they make juice, rasa. Like you have a juicer, you make juice. So you give the devotees ingredients, like the holy name, I'll put the book here. You give them the holy name, you give them deities, you give them Bhagavatam, they just make juice out of it. Our job is to make juice into everything. So like, or you could say, well, that's one example, or you cook it down, make it sweet. We make burfi out of everything, we make it thicker and sweeter. So you take bhajan, you sing it, you sweeten it, you make juice, you juice it, or you make chutney out of it. Rasamalai. You take Bhagavatam, you sweeten it, you juice. So that's our job. That's what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
27, is that right? We're reading from the first canto, chapter 2, text 27. Keep in mind that this translation and purport was written by Srila Prabhupada before ISKCON existed. So generally when a writer is writing, they have an audience in mind. And so Prabhupada had an audience which was the West, but he didn't know what it looked like yet, because he hadn't come. The first Bhagavatam Prabhupada wrote in the West was the second canto. So when Prabhupada was writing the second canto, he knew his audience. The audience was already there. Second canto was like 1970, I think it came out. So Prabhupada had 4 or 5 years in America knowing his audience. But this was an audience that he was conceptualizing in his mind of who he wanted to preach to. But it's a little different. Of course, Prabhupada is, I think in these verses, he's preaching to more of the Indian population, because they are worshippers of demigods, but we can expand that and just say we're pretty much worshippers of everything but God. In one lecture, Prabhupada said, you love your dog, you love your country, you love this, you love that, you love everything but Krishna. We could add to that, you worship wealthy people, you worship movie stars, you worship politicians, you worship rock stars, you worship everyone but Krishna. So, Rajas Tamaha Prakritaya Sama Shila Bhajanti Bhai Pitri Bhuta Prajesadin Shri Aishvarya Prajepsavaha Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Petri Bhuta Prajesadin Sadin Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha Rajasthama Prakritaya Shamashila Bhajanti Vai Pitribhuta Prajeshadin Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha Rajastama Prakritaya
Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitribhuta Prajeshavin Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitribhuta Prajeshadin Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitribhuta Prajeshavin Shri Ashvarya Prajipsavaha
Word meanings. Rajaha, the mode of passion. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Prakritayaha, of that mentality. Samashilaha, of the same categories. Bhajanti, do worship. By, actually. Pitri, the forefathers. Bhuta, other living beings. Prajesha Adin, controllers of the cosmic manifestation. Shriya, enrichment. Aishwarya, wealth and power. Praja, progeny. Ipsavaha, so desiring. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. Please repeat. Those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance.
Those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance
worship the forefathers. Other living beings. And the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited.
For they are searched with a desire to be the giving benefit.
With women, wealth, power, and progeny.
With women, wealth, power, and progeny.
Sounds like my next hit song. Just give me women, wealth, power, and progeny. Not my hit song. The hit song is, I don't want women, wealth, power, and progeny. But I don't know if that'll make it as number one on the charts. We'll see. Well, I have the song. It's already written. I don't want women. I don't want wealth. I don't want fame. Purport. There's no need to worship the demigods of whatsoever category if one is serious about going back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 20 through 23, it is clearly said, those who are mad after material enjoyment approach the different demigods for temporary benefits, which are meant for men with a poor fund of knowledge. We should never desire to increase the depth of material enjoyment. Material enjoyment should be accepted only up to the point of the bare necessities of life, and not more or less. We talked about that last night. Or not more or less than that. That's interesting, isn't it? Don't accept less. Don't accept more. Accept what's right for you. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. What does that mean? Can someone explain that? To bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. What does it mean? Yeah. And how do you get bound? Yeah, by your desire. So, Mahadevagni Nirvapanam. If you chant Hare Krishna, it says, Mahaprabhu says, Mahadevagni Nirvapanam, the fire of birth and death is ended. So the fire of birth and death is ended, it must mean that your material desires are ended, because you can't end the fire without ending the desires. Correct? Yeah, correct. Yeah. Did you ever think about that? It says the holy name just extinguishes the blazing fire of birth and death. How does it do that? How does it extinguish the fire of birth and death? Extinguishes the desire that would cause one to take birth and death again. So, my dear devotees, if you chant Hare Krishna properly, your desire for material enjoyment will decrease and decrease. And what happens when that desire is purified? Then naturally the desire to love Krishna becomes very strong. And that becomes all you want. And when you leave this world, that's all you want, so you don't come back. To accept more material enjoyment means to bind oneself more and more to the miseries of material existence. More wealth, more women, and false aristocracy are some of the demands of the materially disposed man. Because he has no information of the benefit derived from Vishnu worship. By Vishnu worship, one can derive benefit in this life as well as in life after death. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more wives, and more children worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. So, Prabhupada would talk about this a lot. And there's a story. Would you like to hear a story? Yes. Are you excited? Yes. This is a really interesting story. This is a story about polygamy in the Hare Krishna movement. Ooh, we had polygamy. Well, kind of we had it. Now you're all going to want to leave the Hare Krishna movement, that you've got this bad news. Well, as you may know, polygamy is Vedic. So if you want to be Vedic, get yourself a few more wives, right? Then you'll be really Vedic. Okay? So there were a couple devotees in our movement who actually married, I think they had 2 wives or maybe 3. And so they did it because it was in Prabhupada's books that polygamy is allowable. But no one really discussed it with Prabhupada. I'm not aware that these men got permission from Prabhupada or discussed with him. But anyway, the discussion finally came to Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is okay if we marry more than one woman, because polygamy, it's Vedic, you talk about it, etc. So they went back and forth, and sometimes what would happen was, as would naturally happen, something would come to Prabhupada for like the first time. It's like in the history of the Hare Krishna movement, which was like 3-year history, so like everything is like first time, it's coming up. What to do about polygamy? So they're going back and forth. And Prabhupada said, he's thinking about it, and then he finally said no. He said, after all, we're trying to decrease sex, not trying to increase it. So if you have more than one wife, that means you're going to be having children with each wife. So why would we want to increase it? We're trying to decrease it. Right? That was his answer. So it's saying the same here. The aim of life is to end the miseries, not to increase them. Forgetting these principles, foolish people who are after more wealth, more wives, more children, worship various demigods. The aim of life is to end the miseries of life and not to increase them. And so materialistic people are good at increasing their entanglement. And when you're a devotee and you become detached from something, you lose the desire for it, then you're happy. Oh, I don't need this anymore. But for a materialist, sometimes when they lose the desire for something, they go, oh, I'm not interested in women anymore, I don't feel like drinking, not interested in this and that. Not all of them, but some of them, like that puts them in anxiety. Like, what's going on here? My life is, I'm losing my taste for living. I need to go out, get some excitement. Isn't it? Yeah. We have this drug, I don't know what drugs you have, but they have drugs which are sexual stimulants. So for materialistic people, if they lose their sexual desire, that's a big problem. They can't enjoy that. For a renunciate, if that happens, it's like, oh good, I'm finally conquering that desire, which is like, it's just deviating me or disturbing me. So any desire in which a devotee becomes detached from, he's happy. I'm finally overcoming this. I don't need it anymore. But materialists, that's a problem. They want to reignite it. So for material enjoyment, there is no need to approach the demigods. The demigods are but servants of the Lord. As such, they are duty-bound to supply necessities of life in the form of water, light, air, etc. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence. And that should be the model of life. Okay, did you get that? Should we print it on a t-shirt? This is what it says. This is the motto. One should work hard and worship the Supreme Lord by the fruits of one's hard labor for existence. Work hard and worship Krishna with the fruits. This should be the motto of life. One should be careful to execute occupational service with faith in God in the proper way. And that will lead one gradually on the progressive march back to Godhead. The Prabhupada is just making the point, don't worship the demigod. Whatever fruits you have, give them to Krishna. We discussed that yesterday. Lord Sri Krishna, when he was personally present at Brajadham, stopped the worship of the demigod Indra and advised the residents abroad to worship by their business and to have faith in God. Worship the cows. Worship the hill, because the hill gives you grass, and the grass feeds the cows, and we are sustained by the cows. Worshipping the multi-demigods for material gain is practically a perversity of religion. Whoa, did you hear that? Were you awake when I read that? Perversity of religion. In other words, what Prabhupada's saying, either you approach a demigod for material benefit, or you approach, if you approach any other entity for any material gain, that's a perversion of religion, because you're performing religious activity to the demigods. And worse, you think that those demigods are God. This sort of religious activity has been condemned in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam as Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava means cheating. So Kaitava Dharma is translated as cheating religion. There's only one religion in the world to be followed by one and all, and that is the Bhagavat Dharma, or the religion which teaches one to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yeah. So, as you probably know, many, many times, when Prabhupada was asked about religion, they would say, well, how do you know your religion is right, or what religion is better, and these kinds of questions. And he would say, if a religion teaches you to love God, that's the best religion. Sri Sri Gaurnitai Ki Jai, Sri Panchatattva Ki Jai. I have to give everyone out in Facebook World Darshan. I don't know if you can see. They only are seeing the 4 tattvas, not the 5. They can't use up. They're blocked. Anyway, 4 is still good. So, Prabhupada never went into the this is the only way, and all you people are going to hell. He never said that. Our religion is better. He would always say, the best religion is that religion which teaches you to love God. And he didn't even say it's our religion. He just said, find a religion that teaches you to love God, and then go for that one. And implied in that was, if you're, somewhere in a part of the world where there's no Krishna conscious movement, and the dominant religion is such that, you're born into it, and that's what you'll do. It's not a problem, as long as you're loving God. But if it's not working, what's the point? Correct? Yeah. Just like, my dear devotees, you can be Hare Krishna devotees, the whole 9 yards. Tilak, Kantimala, Korta. Tilak on your body, dhoti. Bead bag, you've got it all. And you're chanting Hare Krishna, and if you don't develop love of Krishna, then what? What's the point? What's good about that? You can, try to flash your neck beads at the Yamadutas when they come for you. We heard in scripture that they won't come for you if you're wearing neck beads, but, Hopefully all the Yamadutas have been given that instruction, because when they came for a Jamil, it seemed like they were Yamadutas that didn't know what, So, we make an assumption, don't we make an assumption? Well, if I just keep my body in the temple every morning, I'll someday become Krishna conscious. Yeah, that's okay, but what about your mind? You got to keep that in the temple also, right? Because if your mind's not in the temple and your body is, well, it may not work. And then somebody's chanting the holy name and says, I've been chanting for 10 years, I don't like to chant. Well, something went wrong there. We're not progressing properly. So, if you study our philosophy very carefully, there's so many little details that Prabhupada teaches us. Like, I'm giving you instructions how to do this, but there's all kinds of details. It seems really simple. Just put this in the pot, turn on the flame, this much water, a little salt. But then you read the recipe details, well, it's actually first you boil the water, then you simmer it, and after 3 minutes of simmering, then you put in the salt, and then you put in the butter, and then wait 3 minutes. And it's kind of like that. There are details in Krishna consciousness, and sometimes when we're not doing well in bhakti, we don't understand it because we minimize the details. There's a purport probably in the Bhagavatam, I believe, I'm not sure the context was Vaishnava Aparad, but it was an interesting purport where Prabhupada was laying out the most important items of bhakti, which we know are hearing Bhagavatam and chanting the holy name and living in the Dham and worshipping the deity and sadhu sangha. So Prabhupada said, if you do these things, you'll become Krishna conscious, but at the end he said, as long as you don't offend devotees. It's just like a little detail, added in there. There's another little detail. Chant Hare Krishna. Detail, don't make offense. Right? So don't just chant Hare Krishna. Chant without offense. There are 10 offenses, so you have 10 ways to offend. I was mentioning yesterday, I don't know if you all heard this, it's kind of heavy. In Yajnavalkya, and there's one other spiritual master, they describe what is brahmachari life. So brahmachari thinks, brahmachari, single, celibate, no problem, I got it. I'm in the ashram, I'm doing well. No, you can't think about the opposite sex. You can't gaze at the opposite sex. You can't. None of that. If you do, you're not Brahman. You break your brahmacharya. Details, minor detail. Like, why am I not doing well? Well, maybe there's some detail that's broken. That we've allowed ourselves to become lax in some way or attached in some way where we're losing a taste. Like, do you like to read Bhagavatam? If everything is going well, you should have a taste for it. It will develop naturally. But sometimes things go on and we don't find attachment. So we don't find the attachments to the right thing. So you have to go back and think, where did I mess up? What detail didn't I follow? So, yeah. You know how Jesus said there's like many ways to deviate, and like only one way only one way. The path is very narrow. The roads of deviation are many. It's like really easy to deviate. And so Prabhupada has given us his books so we understand the science, we understand the path, and otherwise. You can be doing bhakti and it can look like it, but it's not having the result because something's wrong. Something's going wrong somewhere and you may not know. I'm developing an offensive mentality. Have you ever seen a devotee who gets very offensive and everybody can see something's wrong except that devotee? Isn't it? Have you ever seen that one? Like it's like really bad. And it's really hurting the devotee. And have you ever been very critical? And at some point you realize, oh, this isn't right. Something's wrong. You ever had that one? If you haven't, that's dangerous. Yeah. Like it's not normal to be extremely critical all the time. It's just not normal. Something happened to my bhakti, or something's going wrong with my bhakti. It's just not right. That's not a normal, healthy state. And so there are normal, healthy states of bhakti, which Prabhupada describes in his books, and so often we deviate from that. And we do things which we're not supposed to be doing, or not. It's just not the right thing. Yeah, we could do better, and then we suffer from it. So, why did I get off on that tangent? What were we saying? Yeah, how to worship Krishna and no one else. Yeah. So, I don't want to make this sound like, it's all rules and regulations and like that. It's more consciousness. It's more like attitude and these little festering attachments inside that can be difficult. Yeah, because if you want to worship Krishna, if you want to love Krishna, we have to move all those things out of the way that get in the way of that. And there are all kinds of things in the way. And if you don't move them out of the way, they just kind of camp out there. Some of them grow. They get, like in some countries, if there's no one in a house, you just go in there and you just live in it. Then they'll have a squatter. We call it squatters. But in some places, once you get in, it's really hard to get you out. Like India, right? Vacant property, you've got some land in Mayapur and you're not on the land. And while you're gone here, somebody moves in. And you're going to have a really hard time getting them off. Isn't it? I know. I have a disciple like that. He's just fighting people off his land. He's got lots of land and he's having to fight people off his land. They move in. I have a godbrother like that. Same thing happened to him. So it's like if we're not careful, the anartha moves in and then it just it's like really hard to get rid of. It's easier to keep it out, I think, than once it gets in, trying to get rid of it. and all these things, like Prabhupada, he gave this example. It's a really good example. And I hope it scares you. That around water there's bamboo or something similar to bamboo that sucks water. Is it bamboo that sucks water or some kind of bamboo-like shoot and it sucks water? So, you let the wrong thing in your consciousness and it starts to suck your Krishna consciousness out. It's possible. It can happen. So, I was thinking this morning, there's a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's really, really important. I don't know if you remember this. Prabhupada said that a devotee, he actually said Mahatma. A Mahatma is one. It's that verse, Mahatmanastu Mam Partha. I believe it's that verse. The Mahatmas are always glorifying Krishna. Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. They take shelter of the divine energy, and he said they're really careful that they don't allow themselves to be in any situation, and we could add to that, or Prabhupada means to do anything which could disturb their realization. Like which could disturb the condition of their consciousness, which would then impede their forward progress in the development of their love of Krishna. They are always careful not to do, say, taste, touch, smell, feel, go here, go there. They're always careful that I don't ever want to put myself, by my thinking or by my action, by my consciousness, by my attitude, in a state which would impede the fostering of the creeper of bhakti. I always want to make sure my creeper is like fenced in, it's getting light, it's getting water. Like that's what a devotee does. Do you ever see a devotee's kind of fanatical? He's fanatically fencing in his creeper. Isn't it? Basically, right? Yeah, maybe he or she is kind of weak, so they're really like, they won't look at anything. Hare Krishna. Yeah, just look ahead and no Maya. We sometimes see that with young devotees, but they're trying to fence in and protect their creeper, and that's what we're supposed to do. And if we don't do that, even though we're devotees, like the highest philosophy, it doesn't mean it's going to work for us. We all remember Corona. It was a little virus, right? People died from it. So the influence of the negativity doesn't have to look like, obviously this is Maya. Sometimes it's really subtle, you don't even notice it. Yeah. And as you advance, then you notice the subtleties. That's really the only way you see the subtleties as you become purified. Then you notice them. Then you can say, oh, this is not good for my bhakti. Do you ever do something in devotional service because you're trying to prove yourself to others? Have you ever done that one? Yeah. So if you have, then you notice and think, oh, this is not good. This is not helping me in developing prema. I can't do that. I have to stop doing that. I have to be motivated by the pleasure of Krishna. I am a guru and Krishna. I'm doing it for their pleasure. That's the only reason. So I see this little thing, this little seed there that says, do it, because you'll get honored. I gotta pull that baby out, throw it away. And if I don't, it's going to grow. And after a while, it's going to get stuck. And you're going to have like a hard time getting it off. Or maybe I should use past tense. You are having a hard time getting it off. Hare Krishna. I was thinking we should write a book. And the book will be interviews of advanced devotees and asking them, so, what's your secret? What did you do? And I'm sure if we had such a book, what I'm saying now, everyone would be saying. You have to be really careful to do the right thing and avoid the wrong thing. Because if you don't, you could offend a devotee, you could even offend your guru, you could misinterpret the philosophy. Have you ever seen anyone misinterpret the philosophy and come up with some very strange ideas? Never, right? Why does that happen? Like, I've heard some unbelievable things, like unimaginable that anyone could read Prabhupada's books and come up with those conclusions. Like, why would you conclude this? There's an anartha in there. It's like this little soul in there wants that to be true because it will give them, it'll be able to satisfy something that Krishna consciousness won't let them satisfy, and they want to make it true to satisfy it. And if you're ever in that situation, you want to have enough self-honesty to be able to see that I'm trying to corrupt what Prabhupada is saying in order to enable myself to enjoy something in Krishna consciousness that maybe is not meant to be enjoyed. It's possible. Now that I have you totally depressed and ready to give up, how can I do it? It's too difficult. Well, I can say this. If you think in this way, when you're older, you'll be happy you did. And if you don't, when you're older, you're going to be unhappy that you didn't. Because when you get old, it's hard to change. I don't know if any of you are around older people, but older people have been eating the same cereal at the same time with the exact same kind of milk and fruit and the exact amounts for 8,000 years. And if you try to change that, they'll scream at you. Any of you seen that one? They get all weird. You put in too much sugar. I only take half a teaspoon. Because they've been taking that for forever, for 50 years. So, if you do it right when you're young, then when you're old, the right becomes the habit. And if you do it wrong, the wrong becomes the habit, and it's hard to change. How many of you are doing something now fanatically because you learned, the third day you were a devotee, you should do this, and it just went into your heart to the core, and you're ever since you did it? Any of you? Yeah. All of us. Right? And it's good. I mean, if it was a good thing, if it's good, yeah, it's got in there, it's there. I don't know how not to do it. I do it every day. I'm a bona fide Hare Krishna fanatic. It got into Bhakti program, and it's just, this is what I do. And I'm glad I do it, and it's natural and easy. Yeah. So, anyway, that's what I wanted. I wanted to say something different than I said yesterday, because basically this purport is just elaborating on yesterday's verse. So I took a left turn. But everything in the Bhagavatam is only for one purpose, to help us develop love of Krishna. That's all. So everything in our life, everything we do, is only for one purpose, to help us develop love of Krishna. There's no other reason to do anything. Oh Prabhu, I want to go watch this new movie on the IMAX screen. It's going to be amazing. All right, great. But like why? Like, how is that helping you develop love of Krishna? I just need some sense gratification so I don't go crazy. Okay, I understand that. But still, as a devotee, we're supposed to be thinking, how is what I'm doing helping me in some way become Krishna conscious, right? You know this joke this devotee told? Some of you know. We were doing a japa workshop, and we were discussing, all the bad ways to chant japa. And one of the bad ways to chant japa is to chant japa while you're watching television. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you've ever done that before. Prabhu, I watch Krishna Leela and then I chant. Okay, all right. What about football? Well, sometimes. Yeah. So this devotee said, it was actually at the time when there was a Super Bowl type thing. I don't know what you call it in your country, but major football game. What do you call it? There's a big.
World Cup?
World Cup, yeah. It's like a World Cup thing, so it's like. So the devotee said, some devotee said, yeah, I actually was chanting japa during the World Cup. And another devotee said, well, I was there. I wasn't chanting japa during the World Cup. I was just chanting japa during the commercials. So it's like, Prabhuji, you could be in a better environment to chant japa, don't you think? Than in between, So it's like, the goal is love of Krishna. So we just have to look at our life and say, okay, if I continue like this, will I reach the goalpost? Or will it take another life or two or three? Because the goalpost, it doesn't move. And so, if you don't make the goalpost in this life, it's in the same place that you left it in this life. It will be there in the next life. So all those austerities you have to go through and the things you have to give up, you just have to do them in another life. It's not like, well, can I not do all this stuff and go back to Godhead? That's called Christianity, yeah? You can do anything you want if you accept Jesus. That sounds good. Don't you wish that was our philosophy? It would be so much easier, wouldn't it? You wouldn't even have to be here now in class. You could just be, just appreciating God and, just being happy. And now you have to sit here in this boring class, all morning, 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning. It's so hard. But that's the process. How is my daily life helping me develop love of Krishna? And some of you, if you've been around long enough, you will have a stark realization that I don't know if I'm any better now than I was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's pretty depressing. Or in some ways I'm worse. I've allowed myself to go off on a tangent. Any of you have that experience? Or you haven't been around that much? Well, we'll ask that. You have. All right, you can say yes. Yes, no. Maybe both. Doing better now, but the path was not straight. Yeah. But having taught japa and having many senior devotees in the japa retreats, many of them have said, when I was younger, my rounds were better. my life wasn't as complicated. So it's not like a guarantee, it's just going to go up. Sometimes it can go sideways or down. Right? Yes, it's possible, right? Can a healthy person become sick? No matter how healthy they are, can they become? Of course. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop. Thank you for listening. You have any question, comment? Yes?
So I have two questions.
4?
Two.
Okay.
The first one is, like you were now talking about, that you have to do the right things, otherwise you have to do them later. So how to develop this urgency in your life?
Oh yeah.
You're like, okay, I need
Quick.
to do this right now.
Yeah. Oh, the question is how to develop the urgency. Like basically that means do everything I need to do to perfect my life now. Well, one easy way to do that is Prabhupada asked us to do that, so do it for him. If you don't have enough motive to do it, you don't care enough about yourself to do it for yourself, do it for him. You know the answer to this question is self-care. Like, you don't care enough about yourself? You don't, well, whatever, I'll come back again, it's okay. Like, you really want to do that? When you can go back to God in this lifetime? Of course not. So, you should care enough about yourself to want to perfect this life, take advantage of it. But if you don't, then do it for your guru, do it for Prabhupada. Because I mean, if you're, let's say this, if you're initiated, you don't have a choice. Because if you're initiated, that's what you promised to do, right? It's too late if you don't feel like it, you already promised. So that's what initiation means, that I'm going to do this. Otherwise, you don't get initiated just to get a name and fit in with everybody, and you get initiated because that's what you're committed to doing. So remind yourself, if you are initiated, that that's what you did, and if you're not, you should want to be, and you should want to commit, because that's what Prabhupada came. Prabhupada came here to get all of us, pick us up, and take us back to Godhead. So that's Prabhupada's seva. Don't make his seva difficult, basically. Don't make Prabhupada's seva difficult. He came to get you. So let him pick you up and take you. Like when I was a kid, I vaguely remember this. My sister told me I was swimming in the ocean and I kind of like swallowed all kinds of water. Like I was probably like 3 or something, and I must have thought I was drowning or dying. And after that, like, my mother couldn't give me a bath. I wouldn't get near water. I was water traumatized for a while. So if I had to get a bath, it was a fight. She would be like pulling me in, like, get me out. Just get, she'd try to get me wet to wash me, like, get it over with, and I'd be crying or something. It was something about soap in my eye, washing my hair. It was something. I was just... So, when you accept a guru is trying to bathe you. You can't, just don't scream, kick, and fight like I did when I was a little boy. I mean, it's not even like, how do I develop a desire to go back to God? If you're initiated, sorry, it's too late. You don't have a choice. You already agreed. Isn't there a clause in the contract, right? And get out the back door? No, you agreed. So, you can't ask that question. You don't have a choice not to. You already agreed to. But if you're still having difficulty, then always remember that Mahaprabhu has come to give you prema in the mood of the residents of Braj, which is basically impossible to get. You can't, it's like, you ever look for something, you can't find it anywhere. It's like, this is like so rare, you can't find it anywhere. And now it's in every store. And like, oh, it's every store, it's no big thing. We take it for granted. Like, it's so rare, it's so valuable. So you're going to give up on that in this life? And you can, it's like, I've said this a million times, but maybe I can say it in a way that you'll faint or something. You know how long you've been in the material world? Take a guess. Pull out your iPhone, plug in 10 zillion zeros and put a 1 in front of that, and that's like just a short time that you've been here, right? And after, like, this is such a beautiful meditation. All those lives, right? All those lives. We've been here forever, and so forever means without beginning, and we can't imagine without how long without beginning is. But it's obviously long, and so just imagine the longest amount of time you could ever imagine. And then think that imprisonment of birth and death, now it could end in this life. That whole thing of unlimited lives, you could end it in this life. I don't know, think about it. Like, come on. It's too much trouble. I don't like the morning. I'm not a morning person, Prabhu. Oh, really? So what's the program? Oh, I guess I'll come back again. Maybe I'll be a morning person in my next life. Yeah. This is all Bhakti Bozo stuff. So you're all in this room, you're all like 20, 30, 40, 50. The older you get, the faster time flies. You look back like, remember, you're 30 something, remember when you're 20? It was like, what? It was like last week, basically, right? So this life, it goes by really fast. And so it's like, oh my God, 20 years I have to chant and do tapasya. No, it'll go by fast, don't worry. And in the end, you can perfect it and you can meet Krishna and it's over. It's like Prabhupada said, you die and all of a sudden there you are. It's like you woke up from a dream and you're in Leela. Well, that's pretty good after all these lives. Meditate on that until you faint, and then you'll get. As far as determination, it shouldn't be a problem after you have that realization, right? But Prabhu, I always wanted to become a famous this or that. It's like you could meet and dance Krishna in this life if you give up this ambition to be a famous this and that, unless you can use it for Krishna. Just let it go, because Krishna is waiting for you. That's the challenge we have, isn't it? Like, there's so many important things in this world. I don't know if I can give them up for bhakti. That's bad choice. Bad choice. You could be, it's like any one of us could die today. And that means we're with Krishna in Leela today. That's amazing, right? Or we could come back in another body. In the family of devotees. Just hope they stay devotees. I mean, you don't, we were listening to a lecture or a talk, and as often happens, some man will say, Prabhupada, I don't mind if I become a dog, in my next life, it'd be fun. I'd like to be free, and I was with this devotee, and I go, yeah, well, I hope it's not a dog in a village in India, because it's not going to be nice. You don't, but a devotee in my next life, yeah. Well, you're in ISKCON, it's got its problems. You know that every family is not like highly, the ideal, okay, if you could be born in any family, which one, It's not, you don't know. So Prabhupada's mood was, you don't know, so just, you can be Krishna conscious, so just do it. Like, what's the problem? Go back to Godhead. So that's how we should think. And if you ever need inspiration, just think, I can be with Krishna at the end of this life. That's amazing. And this end of this life is not long ahead. And we're eternally in this material world, and we can be eternally in the spiritual world, and this one life is the junction. And if we say, I don't know. It's too hard. I mean, it's like, hello, turn on the switches up there. Come on. Isn't it? Like turn the lights on. This is it. You can do it. Yeah. Second question. That was a long answer.
We see that, as you said, that Prabhupada said that the best religion is the one that teaches love.
Yes.
And many times he was, as you mentioned in the previous class, that he was okay with other religions if the followers will follow him.
Yes.
But at other places we can also see that he said that Christianity is only of love, or for example in Chaitanya Charitamrita he says that the Bible and Quran are the scriptures for Yahweh and
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my understanding is that the basic premise is that there is a God, there's a personal God, and you're a servant of God, and so in that sense Christianity is good. And Jesus is a pure devotee. But how it's been interpreted or manipulated, that's another issue. So when Prabhupada was making those statements, he wasn't really delving into theology. It was just, if God is the Supreme Person from whom all other people come, He's the seed-giving Father, you're His servant, worship Him, glorify Him. If that's what your religion teaches, that's good. So we support that. It's kind of like that. But if Prabhupada was talking specifically about something the so-called Christians are doing that's irreligious, then he would say those things. Yeah, as we know, Prabhupada was very, very heavy on Christians regarding meat eating. Because meat eating is one of the most sinful things human beings can do. Animals, that's their nature. They eat other animals. But human beings are not meant, especially the cow. So that's why Prabhupada would get very heavy. But I think in appreciating other religions, he's appreciating there are at least in theory religious principles in those religions. Whether people follow, that's another thing. Yes?
You were speaking about being critical. So if we are hurt and then we become disturbed in our japa because we are hurt, and then in the course of time we become critical towards the person we are hurt by, and then our japa becomes even dull, what should we do?
Okay. The question is, if someone hurts us, it can affect our japa. And what was stage 2? We become critical of them, and that hurts our japa more. I would like to give a general answer, which could be applied to many, many situations. Don't allow anything to hurt your japa. Implant that chip in your brain. No matter, come hell or high water, I will not allow anything to disturb my japa. It's too precious, that relationship. So that should be number one. When we're getting that upset, obviously we're taking things personally. And then criticism is not a functional way of responding to being criticized, is it? Because then, how dare you treat me that way? I'm going to treat you the worse than you're treating me. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. We're worse than them and we're criticizing, right? Yeah. So, what I would suggest regarding criticism is I would suggest doing some introspection about it. Like, why you do it? Why do you need to do it? Okay, they're criticizing you, they hurt you. Understandable. But that hurt that they've given to you is now hurting, you're allowing it to hurt you. You don't have to allow it to hurt you. You know, one time someone said something about me that was, you know, like sometimes we kind of think somebody is doing something or thinking something that they're not doing or thinking, but it just looks like they are. So someone will say, oh, I know they're doing this. And someone made a comment about me. And I said, no, that's not what I was thinking. It's so common, right? And then I thought, well, they're talking about somebody else because they're not talking about me, because that didn't describe me. So I thought, well, it doesn't bother me because they're not talking about me. I don't know who they're talking about, but it's not me. So I just let it go. And then I said, but if what they said was accurate, then I should look at it and, you know, learn from it. So that was kind of how I dealt with it. Like, you know, you say all these things about me, but that's not really me, so it doesn't really bother me. So that, you know, it's just a strategy. But, like, I think the main thing is, like, why do I need to lash out at someone to, like, you know, soothe my emotions? It's not the way to do it, right? It's not a functional way to soothe yourself, is to, you know, scream at the person who screamed at you.
But what if you keep that inside yourself?
Yeah, that's my point. Why? To discover why you're doing that. What's the mechanism that's causing you to do that? Because once you discover that mechanism, you can heal it, and then you won't have to have that problem again. So it's like every time something like that happens, that's okay if you can heal it and find out. Because otherwise, if you don't, it's going to keep happening. So there's something, I can't say for you personally, but, you know, generally, some sense of self was hurt, and maybe that sense was weak, and now you've kind of lost it, and you need to find it. Like, our sense of self can be built up by other people, and it can be torn down by other people, or it can be built up by ourselves, or we can tear it down also. I can tell you what I do. I have discovered, I think I must have learned this, I have discovered that if I am sincerely trying to serve and do my best, and I consider what this person said, and I realize they don't like me, or they just misunderstand me, or they have previous history with other people like me, and they see me like them. You know, sometimes it's like that. Then I don't go through a conversation with myself, but if I did, it would look like this. Mahatma Prabhu Ji, were you trying your best? Yes. Were you sincere? Yes. Did you do the best with what you knew and what you had, and like that kind of conversation? And if all the answers were yes, I was like, okay, there is no problem. That person's just, you know, that's just who they are. But, you know, and if I did do something wrong, no, I messed up here. Okay, so you need to correct this. And then it's good. Then that's one you've cured of many more that will come up, and you never have to deal with that again. You know, so like, you know. If you don't want to get hurt, don't go outside your house. Or like you don't want to fail, don't do anything. You don't get criticized, don't do anything. It's like a austerity we take, you know, when we want to do something. You know, I'm going to do this project, and all the way, yeah, right. You've never done anything. You know, so immediately, just, you know, you have an idea, and people start criticizing you, isn't it? So, you know, so we, in the service of Srila Prabhupada, we have to be, you know, willing and able to, like, just, all right, if that's what's going to happen, then it's going to happen. But I want to do service. I do the right. I'm going to do the right thing because the right thing is the right thing. Oh yeah, that's another question. Did you do the right thing? Yeah. So I did. Yeah, I did the right thing. So why are you so upset about what other people think? You did the right thing. Oh, okay, that's a good point. Isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't have done the right thing, then nobody would be upset with me. Yeah. I don't think so. Right? Is that okay? Yes?
Andrea has 2 questions.
Who? You don't want to ask?
It's easier for her.
Oh, translate it. Okay.
So, the first question is related to relationships amongst devotees, and how do we approach situations when some rules are being broken in the temple, for instance. One of the examples is when someone wants to play the harmonium during the morning or evening program, and the devotee is being approached by someone else, and the other person says, "No, you shouldn't do that. That's against the rules." So.
Are you the one telling the devotee not to do that, or are you the one being told not to do that?
Being told.
Oh, what do? That's easy. Just punch him in the nose. Of course that's what you do. Then I'll never ask you again. Prabhupada said we shouldn't play during arti. He said you shouldn't play during arti because some devotees said if you play bad, everyone will be listening to it. And if you play good, everyone will be listening to it. So they should be listening to the holy name. Yeah. But he said, yeah, not during arti anyway. Generally it's for bhajan, but we've adopted it for kirtan. I don't know. That's a controversial question. See, they play it in kirtan mela. Everybody plays it. You can down the list of who is who, but generally not an arti. It's not an arti instrument. I was thinking yesterday, like we play harmonium, but you wouldn't play like a distorted guitar, right? So it's sattvic. But Prabhupada didn't like it for arti. Generally. So were you questioning the rule itself? Like why the rule was there?
And the relationship. Like how we should approach
How should you respond? That's the question.
How do we approach the devotee who is making a mistake?
Oh. Trinadapi sunichena. Humbly and with sugar in your mouth. Not chilies in your mouth. And sometimes, I learned something when I was a young devotee. This is so valuable. Someone made a mistake. I was trained by a devotee who was trained by a devotee who was trained by Prabhupada. So there's Prabhupada, there's the next devotee, then the next devotee who was trained by the devotee that was trained by Prabhupada, and I was trained by him. So I was pretty much, it was like I was being trained by Prabhupada because it was all direct. And he said, if someone makes a mistake, don't tell them on the spot. Wait and tell them like the next day. Prabhu, can we talk? We have this rule. Prabhupada said, harmonium we're not doing, you play really well, I really like it, but it's just, that's a policy. Then it's easy, the next day is always easier. Like what you couldn't say in the moment is pretty easy. That yesterday when you made that sabji, is it possible? Today you could put a little less of this, a little more of that. Oh, sure. But if we told you when you were serving it out, it may not be taken well. Right? But always put sugar in your mouth when you have to correct somebody. Is that okay? Yes. Last question, and then we'll take prasadam. Yes.
Okay, my question is regarding rules and regulations. So devotees very strictly with it, and could those following rules and regulations could sometimes make your heart hard. And why is this happening? Because in the beginning stage, for example, I was told that you don't try, when you cook, you don't try the food, right? That was the rule. Because
You don't try to what?
Food. While you're cooking, you don't try it, because...
Oh yeah, you don't taste it, yeah.
So this was like, and for example, for me, this was like, that's the mantra. And because of that, when I was cooking in my place, in my mother's place, for example, and my brother, who doesn't care about how I live and what is my standard, he will come and try, and I will react. And because of that, it makes me really hard-hearted.
Yeah.
And I'm asking this because in the beginning stage, you're young, you just
Yeah.
want to follow what it
Yeah,
says.
exactly.
It's Krishna in that sense, but the other hand, you make other people who are not God
Yeah.
conscious, even, they go far away because of the way how you behave. So.
Yeah. So what to do?
I mean, why is this happening that that you become hard-hearted when you follow rules and regulations?
Because it may be that you have a relationship with the rules more than you have a relationship with the person who the rules are meant to satisfy. Isn't it? Like you have a deeper, I'm not saying you, but where people sometimes have a deeper relationship with the rule than with Krishna, who is the object of the rule.
Yeah, but that person follows that rule because of Krishna, because he wants to please
Well, it's not Krishna doesn't want you to like make your brother hate Krishna.
Yeah, that's their reaction, but this is what is...
So that's just a use of intelligence, I think. Time, place, intelligence. Yeah. What? And what do you do if you don't have intelligence? That's the next question we'll answer. As Prabhupada said, find someone who does. So you're taking into consider everything. Okay, this is, you want to hear something interesting. If you're cooking in the kitchen for Krishna, like the kitchen is Krishna's, everything in the kitchen, all the bhog is Krishna's, and you're Krishna's, and you're cooking for Krishna, and then your brother comes and eats it before it's offered. You already offered it, because you didn't cook it for him, you cooked for Krishna, so it's already prasadam. And Prabhupada said that. That's cool, right? But that would be a more mature way of seeing it. Well, I was cooking this for Krishna. And he doesn't know, he's just ignorant. So, we're not going to destroy a relationship over this rule. When in fact you did follow it, actually. Yeah. Prabhupada told Hridayananda Maharaj, please preach in the colleges and please do not make Krishna consciousness, do not teach it as a set of rules. It is the most sublime philosophy. Teach it as a philosophy, not as rules. For all you rule-vadis who like to teach rules, Prabhupada said, teach the philosophy, don't teach it as a set of do's and don'ts. Teach it as a philosophy. Yes?
I'll just comment. I remember working with one devotee who was doing catering in big festivals. He just had a picture of Krishna or Prabhupada, and he was cooking while people were coming, ordering, and he was giving them food. There was no question of, please wait, I will offer it, and then it was already...
Yeah, so he's offering it in his heart, right? Is that okay? Or you want the whole class on rules and regulations?
No, just that part, that honest devotee would like to please Krishna with rules and regulations because he was taught like that, and it's, of course, that's why I'm saying it's not mature devotee, but it's in the beginning stage, but already makes some mistakes with the, so this is...
What's the point of the rule? If you don't understand the point of the rule, it's easier to make that mistake, right? As Hridayananda Maharaj once said, some people like rules. It's just it's like their thing. So he choked. They said there's no rule they've ever met that they didn't like. They just like rules. You know? So that, some people have that nature. They're just oriented that way. But at least we should understand the purpose behind the rule. Okay. We are leaving everyone. Hare Krishna to all of you. And we will see you tonight at what time? 6?
No, today we have Sangha.
Yeah, we're talking to them. 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
6? Yeah, tonight. 6, 7?
6.
6 tonight at... You're all are they all invited or what?
Actually, no, because they don't have so much space.
There's not enough space for everybody.